the NS Diesel Series 6400s. This is the first in a series of Loco Report videos that I will focus on a particular locomotive. So sit back and relax. So in the late 1980s, about 1988, the Dutch railways needed new locomotives to replace the diesels from the 1950s, and that resulted in the 6400 series. These are the first two I saw in real life on my hometown of Delfzijl railway station around the same time. The Dutch railways put a tender out and MAK from Kiel in Germany won, and they based the design on this version. That's the MAK designated as a DE1002 diesel shunter. But the NS version is different. As this picture shows of the delivery of 6401, it is quite a bit longer than the model you just saw. Where the original is 13 meters in length, the NS version is 14.4 meters in length. And that is due to an extra auxiliary diesel in the short hood and some other equipment. The additional length also resulted in longer trucks, also due to different braking arrangements. The Austrian manufacturer Liliput already had a DE1002 available as a model, and so for them it was easy to just repaint them and offer a 6400 in models. This was late 1980s as well, early 90s at the latest when they first came on the market, but due to that they're too short. The German manufacturer Märklin and its DC counterpart Trix also released one later on. That one had a better looking upper car body with a longer short hood, but it still used two short trucks below. They are the same as what would be found under a DE1002. So also this one makes it look a little bit peculiar because of the big gaps between the tanks and the trucks. Another attempt was done by Pico from formerly East Germany. They released a 6400 color variant as well, but this is actually a far more modern version of the locomotive that is currently, or up until recently, was in production. This is not a 6400 at all. Telltale things are, among others, different handrails, two ventilators on the long hood at the front, and two short hood. The best model by far is that by Rocky Rail, a small Belgian manufacturer. This is actually a very accurate 6400 series diesel. The only problem being, it was a small manufacturer, they went bankrupt, restarted, but never reproduced it, so these are very, very hard to find, and therefore I had to go elsewhere. Speaking about this topic with a friend of mine, we concluded that for a reasonable budget, the original Liliput is actually the best model, best alternative, best compromise. The proportions are just a bit better, with the trucks fitting better under the shorter frame. And whilst the locomotive is too short and not entirely accurate, it is still the character of it is still better than the Trix, which has two short trucks and looks just a bit off. That way the Pico is not a 6400 at all, and even further removed than the Liliput one. And yeah, as I said, the Rocky rails are very, very difficult to obtain, and if they are available, also on the pricey side. And as I'm not modeling in this era, and normally this was the best for me. But also here, things are not straightforward. The Liliput model initially was put on the market with a dual motor drive. Each truck had its own motor. That was could be problematic if the two motors weren't running at the exact same speed. It was a smooth drive, but it was a very noisy drive if it operates correctly. Liliput at some stage went bankrupt and was taken over by Bachmann, and under the Bachmann Europe brand, although Liliput is still used, they released it with a central motor and normal drive shafts, as you would see in majority of model railroad locomotives. And that is the version I have. Here it is on the test bench. Obviously, before I did any work to it, I tested it first, and I already discovered a problem. One of the two couplings was slipping, and that's visible in the video I'll show you now. So have a good look at the white nylon couplings near the flywheels. The one on the right is slipping, as you can see. It shows up a little bit. So thankfully the fix was straightforward. The ball joint on the axle is a little bit loose. So all I've done there is apply a drop of very strong super glue, and that solves the problem. It basically probably must have worked itself loose over time, but no big deal. I have this handy USB powered soldering iron, nice and compact, so you don't have any fights with a cord. The disadvantage is that they only last 30 minutes before they need to be recharged, but I'm hoping that I don't need that much time. So let's just try and resolder. That's one wire. See, that's going really well. Get some heat in there. Pull it out, there we go, good. To the other side. It's that one. And that is the truck free of the PCBs. There's also two wires from the motor. This is one, and this is the other one coming through the center here. So I'm gonna remove them as well. One, and here's the other. There we go. That's all the wires loose. Wonderful. That up for a moment. And now we can take the PCB off. There we go. There's no longer any tension on this, so this should just lift away. And here we go. Here's the circuit board with the lights soldered on, which are being replaced with LEDs. And here I have them. I've used a set of warm white LEDs, and they are roughly the same size as the bulbs. Now what Liliput did actually was put the lamps in copper holders for good heat dispersion, but they also have a hole where the light comes through, so I need to make sure that the LED is soldered in such a way that its light goes through that little hole properly. But that'll be after we've serviced the trucks. One little remark before you take everything apart: it's always good to mark things up where possible. So I've done an F and an R for front and rear truck respectively, so I know which way they're going. And the other thing you could do is take some pictures along the way so you know where things go if you're not entirely sure. Now, these are some older models, so you could expect that some of the plastics are maybe on the brittle side. And the trucks are actually clipped in place with half moon shaped plastics. We'll show you once I've got them out, but the little tabs are here. You can see them there. I would advise you to take a lot of care when removing them, because if plastic breaks, these things, you won't be able to get them as replacement parts because the models are no longer made. The manufacturer is now owned by Bachmann, but they don't have any spare parts for old models like this one, which probably originated somewhere from the late 1900s, early 2000s. Certainly no later than that. The original ones, as I mentioned before, were dual motor ones. They came out in the late 80s, early 90s. So models like those, we're looking at 30, 40 years of age. And this one is probably close to 30. So don't expect to be able to find parts. So be very, very careful. Okay, do be warned. And I've warned myself. The next thing you've got to be keeping in mind on these models is that the truck and coupler arrangements, the way that's connected to the front, is also a little bit different than you're normally used to. You see the snow plow here, which is molded onto a piece of plastic. That's actually pressed into the chassis and from front to back, so it'll slide out in that direction. And the other one obviously in this direction. That will free up the coupler holder and it will help you getting the trucks out once you got the clips out. The sides of the truck are very similar than you see with most models. They're just pressed onto the side so they can lift off just by that. There we go, clip. We've got two little pins holding them in place, and you can reach the side of the wheels. That's also the method to get to the traction tires. Two of the wheels have traction tires on this model. They're okay, so I'm not going to replace them. But here is that infamous plastic clip that holds the truck in place, so they press out from the top. Again, be very, very careful. So I'm going to have a look first at the front. And carefully pull this forward. There you go. Now you can get at the coupler that comes off. That being attached to the bottom of the truck, you can now, it won't be in the way anymore. The truck side frames are actually quite easy to identify because the pins are not exactly in the center, so if you put them on the wrong side, the axles won't line up with the holes, so you'll know automatically which side you need to be on. So this one doesn't belong here, it would be too far over, they'll go on the other side. So another thing to keep in mind. Just take your time when you do this side of thing. So after this assembly, we're left with this. You can now see the truck clips very well, the drive shafts, the motor still in the frame with the flywheels on, and the two trucks, which we'll carefully disassemble. Do note there's a bit of tape on the top of both of them. That is actually there to isolate the metal truck frame, which is quite unusual actually for most models nowadays, plastic. But it's to isolate it from any electrical contact with the PCB, which is very close to it. There's hardly any space in this model, to be fair. So I'm gonna probably be creative and need to be creative in fitting the DCC decoder later on. But first things first, let's service this locomotive. So we're gonna take the trucks apart. Looking at the construction, the bottom of the truck is clipped on, and it's actually tighter on this side, but even tighter at the front, so we'll have to probably pry it loose on this side so it clips off and falls down. So we're gonna have a quick look at that. Use a screwdriver, get it in there. Yeah, there it comes. It's actually coming loose. There's a little protruding part there on, and here it goes. Pull it forward slightly, get it out the front. There we are. Wow, that's a very interesting construction. The coupling guides, for want of a better word, are clipped inside there as well, and there's a plastic spacer arrangement, alignment structure. Gonna be careful with that one as well. I'll leave that in situ for now and study it a bit better, but we're gonna split this frame open first and see what we get. Actually, have a good look before you open something is always beneficial. Turns out it's actually a rubber drive belt running from this shaft on a geared wheel to the top. Look, if I turn this here, you can probably see it. So that means in this entire gear tower there is very little in the way of gears for me to need to go in and lubricate. I'll just have to clean this as best as possible and then re-grease it and put it back together. That's probably all I'm going to do on this. I don't want to cause any damage to what is probably a very fragile drive belt. If I put the wrong cleaning product there, it might make the whole thing brittle and it breaks, and I don't know if I could even get one of these things. I'm not going to risk that, so I'm going to carefully clean, re-grease and put it back together. And we'll do that for both trucks. Desoldering here, get the bulbs off. I've done one side already, and now it's the short hood. Use a vacuum pump to remove the solder. So now after the bulbs and the diode has been removed from the circuit board, which I already done on this side, we're fitting the resistor in place. Solder it in. There we go. These are through holes on the circuit board, so I'll solder on the other side as well, just to make sure that I've got a good connection. And then we can put the circuit board back into the Loco. So let me go ahead and see you in a bit. So, the LED's been soldered on, the resistors have taken the place of the location of the diodes, but one leg should not be soldered to the island. That's actually the negative side. DCC systems are always a common positive, and they've got the negative is being switched. That's for the front lights it'll be your white wires, and for the rear lights it's yellow. That's the DCC color codes. White is coming off pin 6, going through this resistor, and follows the trace all the way forward to the negative side of the front headlight, and also to the negative of the rear red light. And obviously pin 2, that's the way the NMRA DC pin is laid out. Pin 2 will lead to yellow to the front resistor, just out of view here. It's going to be there, running from there to there, and then it's the opposite way. This will be the front light here on the short hood, and that's the red. The other side is the red rear. Hope that was clear enough. Let's just solder the yellow wire to the location. Oh yeah, the other thing I have to do is here is scratch through the actual track here and isolate it, because the PCB was laid out for bulbs with diodes, and I'm obviously changing into LEDs, and turned out I needed to make some modifications. So that's the yellow light wire on. Bit more solder. Oops, stuck to the. Yeah. Oopsie. Let's do this tidy. That's better. And we'll do the resistor side. Just have to measure the wire up for a minute, because I want to run it as flat as possible over the PCB. So a little bit shorter. There. Let's just strip a little bit of insulation off. There we go. Tin the end of the wire. Tin the resistor as well on that side. This already has a little bit of tin on, but let's just add a bit more. There we go. And we're going to be bringing the wire onto it. And there we go. So all I now need to do is to tape it down, and that should be the modification of the circuit board done. So I'm going to install it back in the Loco and test it out. So let's just go ahead with that. So before we put the decoder into the locomotive, it's always better to test it first to make sure everything works. For that I use this decoder tester circuit board, which has connections for various types of decoders depending on what type of connection it has. It's got a 21 MTC one, the plug X22, 16 and its varieties, an X18 and M651. Here's the NEM652 or NMRA compliant one, which my decoder has. So we're going to just plug that one in. There we go. Plugged in. There's a little indication on the circuit board saying what pin number 1 is, which in this case is the orange wire, and that's in this bottom corner. So let's see what we'll get. I have the board connected to a Sprague USB interface, and I'm using Decoder Pro on my computer to test it with. So got throttle called up, the addresses in. Go, and let's see if we can get the motor to run first. We have power, red light on, so motor on. There we go. Motor is going forward. And slowing it down again. still working. That's usually the case. Now let's have a look, see if we can get the lights to work. The lights and the outputs are here. We've got auxiliaries 1 through 6 and R and F as well, which is reverse and forward. So forward lights and reverse lights, let's try them out first. That's a reverse light. Well, that's working. So the output is working. I'll change direction now. And forward. Both outputs are working and programmed correctly. So we know that the decoder is programmed correctly, does what we want it to do, and it can be installed in a locomotive. So now that the long hood is back onto the locomotive, we have to find space for the decoder here in the cab. And the cab did have an interior detail, but I'm fearful that that won't fit, so we just have to fit this in here as best as we can, and then clip the cap back on. It has little notches on either side here, so you may be able to see, and they clip on in notches in the long hood. So let's go and do that. Probably best to start that upside down, like so, so that the decoder has a fighting chance of falling into place where I want it, like so, and then dropping the cap down. This is pretty fiddly. There we go, and we're on. Click, click, click. There we go. The cap's back on the loco. The decoder's inside. Yes, we can see some stuff from it up close, but you know what? Can't have them all. Right, so next step now is to start weathering and detailing it, and get all the handrails and things fitted. So I will have the locomotive on the rolling road, so to speak, just gently chugging along. This is a good moment to paint the wheels. Now I like this Revell aqua color, dark earth. I find that a good base color for weathering the wheels. So that's what I'm going to be applying. And quite a nice easy trick to do that is while the loco is moving, you just dip your paintbrush in the paint and just gently hold it against the wheel while it's moving. Get an even distribution. So I'm going to do that now. Let me just adjust the camera. A nice little detail to add on the wheels is a small marker that the original locomotives had as well. It's a tiny little white line on every 90-degree spot. So I've got a little bit of white paint on my brush here. Wipe that little mark off there. It's alright, it'll be hidden anyway behind the truck. So you won't be able to see that. Talking about trucks, that'll be next. Start off with some this one, I started on this one with the wrong color, but that's easily fixed. Let's go over the top. Minding the second coat on this one, but we'll see. Definitely the second coat on this one. It's okay. That's that done. A couple more little highlights here and there, and then we'll use weathering powders for the rest of it. So weathering powders next. I'm using a bit more protection on my desk here, a bit of paper, because this can be messy. I'm going to start with a slightly darker brown iron oxide, or in other words, rust. A little goes an extremely well long way, so I'm just carefully loading up my brush, tap up the excess, and maybe it's a good idea again to have the frame in a pair of tweezers. There we go, just gently tap it on. More. Next one. Use a bit of this spilt material. Again, this stuff lasts forever, really. They don't all have to be exactly the same. It's weathering after all. That's enough of that. Use some of this as well. This is old rust, it's slightly lighter in color. Again here, every little bit. Give the truck nice highlights, details pop out a bit more. Doing that. There we go. And that's enough weathering on the trucks. See, and that's starting to complete the look of the locomotive already a bit more. We now have to start looking at the handrail. Some weathering powder strokes on the hood before we do the handrails, actually, otherwise it's going to be hard to reach, and just vertical strokes, but I'm very subtle. These machines were relatively new in the time that I'm doing it. At least that's the kind of condition I want to evoke. They've been in operation for a little while, and some tiny weathering is visible. But nothing spectacular, but just using the leftover stuff that fell on the oops, it's It's a bit too much. Put it away. There you go, that's nice enough on the hood. It's amazing what a little bit of weathering does, makes details pop out a little bit more. I've started fitting the factory supplied handrails. These were damaged in a few places, like here, and there's a few others around the locomotive. At this point in time I've only glued 1 or 2 corners. Let them set first before I glue the next one, and hopefully during the process I can straighten them out. And the other thing I need to do is paint them. This is just yellow plastic, and it's not the same color yellow as the cab is. And on top of that, the upstand, the posts on these handrails in real life were grey, the same grey as the grey on the model. So that's another thing I have to sort out, but step by step we're getting closer. Now the railings have been fitted to the model. I've mixed up some grey paint by using this light grey and black, mixed them up to get an approximation of the color of the locomotive, and I've painted the uprights of the handrails where they're supposed to be grey. Note that the ones close to the cab and the ones near the steps remain yellow. Obviously it's a little slapdash haphazard at the minute, but that's okay. We're going to be painting the yellow next, so we get rid of the plastic look. Also there I will have to probably mix a few shades to get an approximation of the yellow that is on the model. So I'm not looking for an approximation of a realistic color, because I can't be sure that the model is 100% accurate, and it probably has faded a little bit over time. So I just need to find a color that comes close to what the model is painted with. So that'll be the next step. So I mixed up a yellow. It's still a little bit on the bright side, but I hope a little bit of weathering will help blending it in. But it's better than a yellow plastic shine. Yeah, I think a wash of black or grime will help blend it in. But definitely better than plastic yellow. That is certain. It looks a lot better. A lot better. So one of the last things to do is to add details on the front of the locomotive. That's the various air hoses and a couple of details. Just applying a tiny little bit of glue while I fit into the holes. One more. A little bit of glue. And there we go. We'll obviously let that glue set before we paint them up. They need a little bit of detail because right now, again, they look plastic black, but you know, things like this really finish a model off, even though the model itself is, as I mentioned earlier on, probably over 30 years old now, and you know, still stand the test of time.
it'll do. Lovely.